Hello artists. In this painting tutorial, I'll share one bit of advice that might actually help you, and tell you about something that happened to me with my painting teacher during one of our lessons. He's still a little mad at me, by the way. There's no mysterious secret here. No magic brush that paints like Renoir all by itself. Just a bit of common sense that takes the pressure off and makes you happier while you paint. Ready to hear it? Alright, here it is. If you want to actually enjoy what you paint, you have to do art slowly. But what does that really mean? Let me give you a real example from back when I was in art school, taking extra lessons on the side. I used to cross a huge city, almost 4 million people, just to get to my teacher's studio, usually rushing in with my unfinished painting in hand, out of breath. I made it. Let's get started. I'll never forget what happened next. He didn't even look at my painting. He just turned away, almost as if I wasn't there. I was honestly shocked, maybe even a little hurt. I thought, wait, is it that bad? What's wrong? But then, almost reading my mind, he said, "First we need to have some tea." He added, "Just put the painting face to the wall. We'll look at it when we're in the right mood to work." So there I was, awkwardly standing in the hallway, hiding my painting, and we sat down at this little table covered with an old grandma-style tablecloth, drinking tea with oat cookies. The conversation drifted. Nothing snobby. No, you should really study Nicolas Poussin. Just simple talk. What I like, what I don't like, favorite colors, why I choose certain brushes, how I clean them. Little by little, the rush faded. That nagging feeling of, I have to get this painting done, disappeared. I was just living in the moment. No tricks, no TikTok, just being there. There was even an incense stick burning on the table. By the time he finally said, "All right, let's look at your work," put it on the floor in front of the couch, it was nearly burned out. We sat in silence. I couldn't hold it and finally blurted out, "So what do you think?" He just said, "What do you mean? It's a painting, that's all." I pushed, "But what should I fix?" He smiled. "You tell me. Look at the upper left corner. Is there anything there that bothers you?" I looked, and yeah, there was this one detail out of place. So, step by step, we slowly walked through every part of the painting, making a list of what needed tweaking. And just as calmly, we made those changes together. That's when I realized why this was the secret to making art that actually feels right. In that relaxed, steady state, things finally worked. Sometimes on the first try. Well, okay, maybe the second. No drama, no stress, no starting over from scratch every time. So, if you want to experience that too, here's what I suggest. Step out of the dopamine race for more content, forget about the endless scroll, and just let yourself be in the moment. Even if that means just watching this video to the end. By the time we're done, you'll feel more focused, more mindful, and your brain will thank you for it. You'll feel just a little bit healthier too. You might be wondering, how do you make your creative process actually work for you? Honestly, it's easier than you think. It all starts with a simple ritual. Most people imagine rituals as something mystical, maybe even a little strange, something only monks or magicians do. But here's the truth. Almost every artist, writer, or even athlete has their own set of rituals, whether they talk about it or not. A ritual is just a small habit, a signal to your brain that it's time to shift gears, to leave behind the chaos and start focusing. A ritual is just a set of small, repeatable actions that tell your mind, okay, now we're switching modes. It's time to paint, not to scroll, not to stress. What does that look like in real life? For me, it might be sharpening a pencil, cleaning my palette, setting out brushes in a certain order, or just making a cup of tea and letting myself breathe for a minute. Maybe for you, it's putting on a certain playlist, lighting a candle, or even changing into painting clothes. Some artists swear by opening a window, adjusting the light, or even doing a couple of slow stretches to get into the zone. The point isn't what exactly you do, it's that you do it the same way every time. So why does this actually work? Here's the neuroscience in a nutshell. Your brain loves patterns. Repeating a small sequence of actions sends a clear signal to your nervous system. It literally starts to prepare for focused work. This is called a conditioned response. It's a bit like warming up before a workout. Your muscles get ready, and your mind gets ready too. When you create these mini rituals, you reduce anxiety, lower the entry cost for creativity, and make it easier to start, even on those days when you really don't feel like it. Psychologists have actually found that rituals can lower your heart rate and cortisol, the stress hormone, and boost dopamine, the same neurotransmitter that makes us feel satisfaction and motivation. That's why sometimes just lighting a candle or sharpening a pencil can instantly shift your mood, even before you pick up a brush. On a deeper level, rituals give us something that modern life rarely does: a sense of control, safety, and intention. They separate the chaos of the outside world from the little sacred space of your studio or kitchen table. It's not about superstition, it's about giving your brain a landing pad, a way to say, I'm here now, I'm focused, this is my time. So if you're looking for a way to paint better, feel less stress, and actually enjoy your creative process, don't skip the ritual. Try a few things. Make tea or coffee and take 3 deep breaths before you start. Arrange your paints or tools in a little ceremony. Put on a certain song only when you paint. Or just sit for 1 minute, doing nothing but looking at your blank canvas. It sounds simple, but over time, these tiny rituals are what turn painting from a chore into something almost magical, something that works for you, not against you. Here's something most art schools never talk about, maybe because it sounds a little mystical or even superstitious, but every serious artist knows it deep down. Sometimes, the real work of painting happens before you pick up the brush. Those little rituals you do, arranging your space, making tea, even just sitting quietly, aren't just habits. They're how you connect with your creative unconscious, the part of you that keeps collecting ideas, images, and memories when you're not even trying. There's actually science behind this. Psychologists call it incubation, the time when your mind works on a problem in the background while your hands are busy with something repetitive or simple. Some of the best ideas come not when you're staring at the canvas, but while you're lost in the motions, washing brushes, laying out colors, sharpening a pencil. That's when your inner artist takes over, and things just click. And if you look at art history, this is everywhere. Claude Monet was obsessed with his rituals. Before painting, he would spend hours walking around his garden, not looking for subjects, but just letting his senses wake up to the light and color around him. Giorgio Morandi famously rearranged the same few bottles on his studio table, day after day, for years. This ritual wasn't about finding the best composition, it was about getting into the right mental space, letting his unconscious decide when it was time to paint. Georgia O'Keeffe would start each morning in silence, taking time to observe the sky and light, writing down feelings and thoughts before ever touching a brush. Even Francis Bacon, whose paintings look wild and spontaneous, always began with a strict routine, tidying his chaos, choosing his music, and sometimes even reading poetry out loud to himself before starting. It turns out, a lot of those crazy artist habits aren't random. They're ways to hand over control from the thinking brain to the creative one. And here's the best part. You don't have to be a famous artist for this to work. Every time you do your own little ritual, whether it's lining up your colors, putting on your painting apron, or just staring out the window for 5 minutes, you're giving your unconscious a signal. Okay, I'm ready, do your thing. And you know what? You're never really alone in this. Right now, as you're listening, hundreds of thousands of other artists are doing something similar. Lighting a candle, picking up a pencil, quietly talking to themselves in their studios, garages, kitchens, bedrooms. They're all reaching for that same feeling of being in the zone. Sometimes you say the paintings look shiny, but that is just part of the process. To protect your eyes, you need about 400 lux in the studio, which means strong lights on both sides of your painting. Trust me, it is necessary. There are so many little details that can make or break your experience. The right brushes, good paint, the right mediums to mix or thin it, proper canvas material, and even something as basic as how you hold the brush or where you stand while painting. Some of these things I learned in art school. Some I picked up from other painters, some came with time. But the one thing I know for sure, never stick to just one teacher. Learn from many and eventually you'll find your own voice. If you're curious, I put together a painting course. It's for beginners, but also for anyone who wants to ground their practice in real technique. It costs about as much as filling up your car, but way less depressing. You pay once and get access for as long as you need. Links in the description. Let's be honest, nobody likes to feel bored. These days we'll do almost anything to avoid it. If there's a 10-second gap, our fingers are already reaching for the phone, scrolling for a hit of something. Anything. But here's the wild part. Boredom isn't the enemy of creativity. It's actually where creativity is born. You know those moments when you're stuck in traffic, standing in line, or just lying on the couch staring at the ceiling, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a weird idea or memory pops up? That's not a bug in your brain. That's how creativity works. Neuroscientists have been studying this for years. A classic study at the University of Central Lancashire had people do the most boring task ever, copying out phone numbers for 20 minutes. Afterwards, the bored group came up with much more original ideas in a creativity test than the non-bored group. Why? Because when your mind isn't bombarded with noise, it finally starts wandering. And that's when the really interesting stuff surfaces. Other research shows that when we're bored, our brains switch into a default mode network. Basically, a background system that connects distant ideas, makes sense of scattered memories, and cooks up new patterns. This mental idle mode is the birthplace of daydreams, crazy solutions, and those moments when you suddenly know how to fix a painting, write a line, or just see something differently. But here's the catch. Most of us are so afraid of being bored, we never give our minds a chance to get there. We fill every pause with content, noise, notifications, so the seed of a new idea never has space to land. When it comes to painting or any creative work, this is even more true. Some of my best ideas didn't show up when I was staring at the canvas, but when I was just zoning out, washing brushes, going for a walk, or even, don't laugh, cleaning the kitchen. The emptiness is what makes room for the new. Here's a story. Once, after days of trying to force a new painting, I got so frustrated I just stopped. No music, no phone, no podcast. I just sat there staring at the wall. For about 5 minutes I was genuinely uncomfortable. Then, out of nowhere, this weird color scheme popped into my head, something I'd never have planned if I'd kept working. That painting ended up being one of my favorites. Maybe you've had this happen too. An idea for a painting, a story, or even a solution to a problem just appears while you are stuck in a boring moment. So, if you want to boost your creativity, you don't need more tutorials or endless inspiration. You need a bit more nothing. Here's my challenge to you and to myself. Try giving yourself a few minutes of intentional boredom every day. Put down your phone. Let your mind wander. Stare at the wall. Look at the sky. Doodle with no plan. Let that default mode have a chance to wake up. Because creativity isn't about always working harder. Sometimes, it's about letting go. Being okay with the empty spaces. And trusting that your mind will fill them in with something new. And the next time someone asks why you're just sitting there doing nothing, you can smile and say, I'm busy, I'm making room for my next big idea. Let's talk about creativity, not just as something you need for art, but as an essential skill for life. It's funny, people always assume creativity is a talent you're either born with or not. But honestly, it's way more like a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it, and weaker if you ignore it. A lot of us, somewhere along the way, started to believe we're not creative people. Maybe a teacher told you your drawing was bad, or someone laughed at your story, or you just convinced yourself you're not the artistic type. But creativity has almost nothing to do with being good at painting or music or writing. At its core, creativity is the ability to see connections, solve problems, and notice possibilities where others see obstacles. The poet Maya Angelou once said, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." That sounds like a paradox, but there's neuroscience behind it. Every time you try something new, make a small change, or experiment, your brain creates new pathways. The more you play, the more you risk a little weirdness, the easier it gets to jump between ideas. That's why creative people aren't just dreamers. They're tinkerers, experimenters, people who get curious, follow hunches, and aren't afraid to mess up. Want to get more creative? Here's the secret. Stop worrying about being original and start trying new things, even if you're terrible at them. Psychologist Adam Grant, in his book Originals, points out that the most creative people aren't always the ones with the best ideas, but the ones with the most ideas. Most of them aren't brilliant, but one or two will be gold. Pablo Picasso painted thousands of artworks in his lifetime. Thomas Edison famously said, "To have a great idea, have a lot of them." It's a numbers game, and you don't have to wait for inspiration. Just show up and start. But let's get real. Sometimes showing up is hard. We worry about judgment, perfection, wasting time. This is where rituals and play come in. The writer Ray Bradbury used to say, "Don't think. Thinking is the enemy of creativity." It's self-conscious, and anything self-conscious is lousy. You can't try to do things. You simply must do things. That's why kids are so creative. They don't worry if something is silly or wrong. They just go for it. Try this. Set aside time to play, with words, with colors, with ideas. Give yourself permission to make bad work. Switch things up. Take a different route home. Cook a new recipe. Listen to a genre of music you've never tried. Borrow ideas shamelessly. Steve Jobs, who stole the phrase from Picasso, said, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." What he meant was, don't be afraid to take something old and turn it into something new in your own voice. Another myth is that creativity is a solo act. Not true. Studies, like those by Keith Sawyer at Washington University, show that collaboration and bouncing ideas off others actually multiply creative breakthroughs. So talk about your ideas. Share your bad sketches or notes. Ask dumb questions. Most real breakthroughs come from weird conversations, or from mashing up two unrelated things. Richard Feynman, the Nobel-winning physicist, called this the joy of finding things out, not the joy of always being right. Let's talk about creative slumps. Everyone gets stuck. Here's a trick. When you feel blocked, do something completely different. Take a walk, do the dishes, sketch with your non-dominant hand. Sometimes the mind needs to wander off-leash to make a connection. And sometimes the best move is to step away and let boredom do its work. Remember what we just discussed. Daydreaming is a real creative tool. Creativity, said Linus Pauling, is just connecting things. A quick experiment. Try to come up with 5 different uses for a brick. The first 2 will be obvious, the next one will be harder. And by number 5, you'll have to get silly. That's your creative muscle stretching. Learning to move past the default ideas and explore the strange ones. And most importantly, be kind to your creative self. Don't let perfectionism kill your momentum. Don't talk yourself out of starting.